Hi, nobodies. Today was a really good day. I'm going to share some, I don't know if they're facts. I have not done my research, but I like to believe that they're facts. But first, I want to tell you about my totally awesome day. Today, for all of you that don't watch me, I normally take a Xanax if I have to go out. Now, I've been cutting down to a quarter tablet. And today, I chose not to take one when I drove to the post office. Now, where I live, the post office is right next door to Dollar General. So if I make it to the post office, smooth sailing from there on out. So I got to the post office, dropped off some mail, and then I said, I'm going to go to a different Dollar General. Now, where that one is, there's one that's maybe a mile away, and then there's one that I have to take like a nice little circular route. And I decided to go to that one. So I was listening to music, just having a good time. Feeling a little like tremor of anxiety, but nothing I can't handle. Made it to my Dollar General that I was going to. Found some cool stuff. Got back in the car. And it was, okay, I can turn down this street and go home. Or I can go this other way and I can visit Humphrey, my camel. And I said, I'm going to go visit Humphrey. And if I start feeling bad by the time I get to this one street, then I'll turn down that street and head home. But I was feeling fine when I got to the four-way stop, and I said, I'm going to go see Humphrey. And Humphrey was at the fence line eating leaves off the tree, and I was like so happy. But I didn't really get to look at Humphrey because there was an asshat behind me who was like riding my ass the whole way. And I was doing 45 through there, which is the speed limit. But this asshat in a Beamer wanted to drive really fast. That asshat has the nicest house on that street. I was like, oh, so that car goes there. Nice car, though. Really. But he was an asshat. Well, I shouldn't assume it was a he. It could have been a she. Maybe they had to poop, and I was holding them up. I think everybody understands that analogy. You're in the car, and you're like, I'm almost home. Train's in the tunnel. Okay, that's too much information. Okay, so on to, after 3 minutes of discussing that, I am really proud of myself. I really don't care if anybody else is proud of me. So some facts that I don't know are 100% accurate. The lady seemed pretty sure of herself, so I'm going to go with that. More people have BPD, borderline personality disorder, than schizophrenia and bipolar disorder combined. Now, you might wonder, then why do a lot of people not know about it? Because there are certain people that have BPD that are handling it. If you don't need medication, like if you don't have the stuff that a lot of times accompanies it, like anxiety and depression, you may not know that there's something wrong with you. And it's not like there's something wrong with you. No, it's that, there's varied degrees of it, and some people, if you're drinking or using drugs, they might think that that is your problem. Like if you're really acting out, they might think that your problem is that you drink. And a lot of times it's misdiagnosed as bipolar. Of course, you can have bipolar and BPD at the same time, making you a whole barrel of fun without medication and therapy. Okay. Studies suggest that approximately 60% of the risk of developing BPD is genetic and due to differences in the structure of the brain. Who would have thunk it? It's all this development up here, all your impulse control and and certain things. I'm sure you've seen the meme that says each person has two sides, and whichever one you feed is the one that grows. That's kind of how it is with your brain. The development is not set in stone. Your environment affects the development of your brain. Almost 80% of people with BPD have a history of at least one suicide attempt. I got a few of those. Okay. 10% of borderlines die by suicide. I have to wonder if they, how many suicides are suspected that they might have been borderline, and would that raise the rate up? People with BPD frequently also suffer from depression, eating disorders, and substance abuse. The eating disorders and substance abuse, that's more along the self-harm, impulse control, because impulsiveness is part of BPD. And substance abuse is that, but you can also look at substance abuse and eating disorders as self-harm, because that if you're anorexic, that you're supposed to eat, that you're harming yourself. If you're bulimic, you're not supposed to binge eat and stick your fingers down your throat and puke. You're not supposed to. You are self-harming. And I think eating disorders are also considered impulsiveness too. I don't know. I can't really quite put my finger on that one. I'd have to look that up. Many people who have BPD are exceptionally intuitive and able to accurately read other people, especially when it comes to emotions. They've actually done studies on this where they show people pictures of people in various degrees of happiness, annoyed, and just all of that. And the people with BPD got happiness right, the varying degrees of happiness. When average people wouldn't catch that the person was happy, the people with BPD, I believe it was around 80% of them caught it, when the average person didn't. It was like one of the very least degrees of happiness. It was only in the eyes. They told the person to make a blank face, and the people with BPD spotted it 80% of the time. Because I think it has a lot to do with us watching, observing, and noticing things. Because we have to read how our behavior is supposed. We try to mirror behavior of a group because we have trouble with emotional regulation, and that could be emotional regulation can be either you overreact or you don't react at all, you don't feel it, you repress it or whatever. So we tend to read a room as far as, okay, this is how I'm supposed to be in this room because that's how everybody else is. It's kind of like psychopaths and sociopaths do the same thing, but they do it because they don't understand feelings at all. So they want to fit in. They know, they pay attention to reading, pay attention to knowing what you're supposed to do. Kind of like when you laugh at somebody's crappy joke and you don't think it's funny, but you laugh anyway. It's because you're supposed to. Well, that's how sociopaths and psychopaths work, is that they pay attention. And those come from personality disorders, the whole sociopath thing. Those people typically do have a personality disorder. Borderlines tend to be very creative and artistically talented in areas such as acting, singing, writing, dancing, drawing, painting, filmmaking, photography, architecture, sculpting, and ceramics, etc. We also tend to be perfectionists about it. Don't do anything if you can't do it well, because we don't want people to pick our stuff apart. And even if, like, I can make something perfect, and now when I crochet something or knit something, I don't worry about it being I don't worry about, like I know it's perfect. I don't know if they'll wear it is the problem. It's like, I made this hat. Why are you never wearing, I'll feel a little rejected about that. So it's kind of a touchy thing, but I ain't messed up about my work. No, my work is on point. But I think that a lot of times our creative side, we worry about the rejection of our art, because even though we know it's perfect, we can still pick it apart and say, well, is it the right color? Maybe I should have done this a little differently. Maybe, like with crochet and knitting, it's like maybe my tension was too tight, or should have been tighter, or, there's a lot to that, but it's always, my stuff's perfect, which is, I'd love to do ceramics and sculpting, but I don't think it would be perfect. Like, I do not sew because I suck at it. So I don't sew. I mean, I'll put a button on something, but I don't sew otherwise. Oh, this one is fun. In previous videos, I've probably talked about my obsessions. Yeah. I did not know that it was an actual thing, but apparently it is. Borderline exceptions, obsessions. Excuse me. Person develops an intense interest in new things to the point of being fixated and even obsessed with them for a period of time, which can range from a couple of days to several months. Then, without warning, they will almost completely lose interest in whatever was considered important to them just the day before. That's a really scary thing for a borderline. Or at least it is for this borderline. Because during those times of being fixated, you're almost fucking insane. Like, I'll seriously forget to eat. I will not want to take time away from what it is that I'm obsessing over. I have trouble sleeping. I think one time I was writing a story that I was obsessed with, and I think I was on like a medication change too. But I actually saw snow outside when I was smoking a cigarette, because I was out smoking that day. And I was like, no, you can't be seeing snow because it's freaking August in Arkansas. It does not snow in August in Arkansas. But I was seeing snow, damn it. I was like, it's got to be fuzz or something coming off the trees, So that's scary to get that fixated on something. But another thing that's scary about it is you don't know if you're honestly that invested in something, or if it's a trick. Like, is it BPD, or am I genuinely interested in this? Is this going to be like a lifelong love? Like with knitting and crochet, I mean, I spent a lot of times gathering up patterns and stuff. And with cooking, I used to have a ton of cookbooks when I was supposed to cook. And it was bad. It was a bad obsession, and I got rid of all those books because I don't use my crochet patterns that I took the time to write down, all these knitting stitches. I wrote them down like multiple times, and big project. I got tons of freaking yarn. I do still like to knit and crochet, just sometimes my sensory issues do not allow me to. The yarn bugs me. But like I said, you don't know whether it's a passing fancy or if it's something you're genuinely into. That is the problem with the obsessions. I mean, you drive yourself crazy in the first place. So you have to I have to put myself in check. I really do. It's very important when you're having those obsessions to make yourself walk away from it for a little bit. Because Because, I mean, it's no fun to starve yourself and then get up and go, oh shit, I forgot to eat and it's too damn late. I better go grab some bread. Bread helps. Borderlines can love and hate to a degree the average person can't understand. Yeah, that kind of falls in with the obsessions. But or in my personal experience, it takes so much. I mean, a person has to do so much bad to me for me to throw them away. I am extremely loyal. Um, Now, luckily, I am smart enough to say I'm not going to give anybody more than I can afford to give them. So I mean, it's a big thing with BPD to be a people pleaser, and then learned from my dad, that his love language was giving. And when your love language is giving, you observe people that you love and you see the stuff they like. And then later on down the road, you grab that for them. You see it and you say, oh yeah, they wanted one of these. And you get it. And they had forgotten all about wanting that thing. So when you bring it to them, it's like, oh my God, you remembered. And that's like the biggest gift for us, for a person who is a giver, is when somebody is like literally touched that you remembered something so small, the tiny detail of something. And with BPD being that you want to be a people pleaser, you want to be accepted and not rejected, that can lead a lot of people to the point of doing things that they really, really, really shouldn't do. Illegal things, getting in trouble, because they don't see that they're being used, for their big heart or whatever. But I never give more than I can afford to lose. People with BPD often have very active imaginations and inner fantasy lives. Yes, we make up stories. We always do. We hate life so much. Well, our reality, or at least this is what I have seen and seems to be true, that the reality we create for ourselves is so much better than the reality we live, and it's so much easier to have. I would not be surprised if a lot of authors have borderline personality disorder. And then that comes to the last thing that I found. And I think that this has a lot to do with why our imaginations and our inner fantasy lives are more active. It's because people with BPD are more likely to be able to experience lucid dreaming and have the ability to do so more frequently than average people. If I'm thinking correctly, I did not look this up. I think lucid dreaming is like where, like, it's very freaking real. Like, to the tiniest detail, it is like life. And it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. Like, some of the dreams I have are just really, 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 really kick-ass. And I feel so much in them, and it's just awesome. I mean, it's like, I call it dreaming in full color. I feel everything, I see everything, and I'm capable of anything. It's awesome. When you live a life that's so numb. But it can also be a bad thing. My son lost his phone. Now, I thought 100% that I called his phone and some dude said, well, I found it at the school on the water fountain. It's my fucking phone now. And I thought it was my friend Mark. but it wasn't Mark. And so, I mean, we got on to Gavin. I mean, we laid it on thick. You shouldn't have taken your phone to school. And he swore up and down he didn't take his phone to school, and we didn't believe him because he lies all the time. And then his sister found it under her bed because she had borrowed his phone and then left it on the floor and managed to kick it under her bed. And then I realized I dreamed that conversation. It seemed so freaking real. I dreamed that conversation. And you want to talk about feeling guilty. Oh my God. When she found that phone, I'd already reported it stolen and all that kind of stuff. And I had ordered him a new phone already. But we felt so bad. I mean, absolutely horrible for not believing him, for making him cry about losing his phone. I mean, we just felt like the worst parents ever. So we owe him some things. But we had already ordered him another phone because we knew he was going to be just totally ridiculously on our nerves if he didn't have a phone. So we did that. But that's the downside of lucid dreaming, is that sometimes you think stuff happened that didn't happen. So there are times when I'll go, hey, did this happen? You know, and some people might figure that's odd. But it's not in my world. In my world, trying to figure out what happened and what I dreamed about happening is kind of a slippery slope sometimes, because I will have these like seriously like real dreams, especially during naps. It's like, did you come in here and tell me that you had cut a cross in your hand? The hell? You know, and they're like, no, I ain't been in here the whole time. You know, some of those dreams are fun, but yeah, it's a fun thing and it's not a fun thing. But those are things that I found interesting online about BPD, that I was like, you know, it's not all bad. And let me tell you, when you read the literature on BPD, it scares me. And I have it. You know, just because a person has BPD, don't assume that they're going to be all Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction. You know, because Winona Ryder was not that bad in Girl Interrupted. But I think a lot of people more associate BPD with Angelina Jolie's character. And it's not like that. I mean, we can control ourselves. I am not an emotional roller coaster. I'm having a good day or I'm having a bad day. And a bad day is just a bad day. I don't lament about it or anything. Bad day is just a bad day. But a good day, there's levels of it. But I am not an emotional roller coaster. Anyway, I'm having a great day. Hope your day was great. Hope you have a great night. Good night.